So like talk right now?
Oh yeah, it's live. You're
Is
hot.
it live? And everything I'm saying is on the stream?
Yes.
Gonna be in the podcast?
Yes.
Well, poop.
Yes. But you're on.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Armchair Racers podcast. I'm your co-host Austin Belkey. Alongside me is the other co-host Kenny Kibbe. Very special guest for you guys today. Ben Wolfson joins us in about 25 minutes when we get through all the racing news, real life news, and iRacing news. So we'll start out with the real racing news. Max Verstappen wins at Abu Dhabi. That was a pretty boring race, pretty par for the course there, to be honest. First non-Mercedes pull of the year. Sorry. Next up, we'll switch our gears, go to NASCAR. Lumar signed with Chase Elliott for 2 races a year until 2023. Also on his car, if you had a keen eye, you'd notice that he's got no Mountain Dew stuff on his car or his fire suit, which means obviously PepsiCo is out for sponsoring him. I feel like, though, they could also switch gears and sponsor Kyle Larson. This sort of lines up with them sort of being quiet about it until January 1st, maybe, um, because that's when he's officially reinstated. And a lot of people on the internet are talking about no, they're not going to announce sponsors for Kyle Larson until January 1st. So I feel like we could see Pepsi switch to Kyle, and I feel like that fits his personality more as kind of being a fun-loving guy who um, and he lives on the edge. He's just fast. So I feel like they'd switch to him, um, but we'll see. What are your thoughts on that, Kenny?
Well, I'm just hopeful that Pepsi does come back in some form because they've been with Hendrick for a long, long time, and to me at least, when I was a kid, they always kind of set Jeff Gordon apart from a lot of drivers because you had all the Coke drivers, and then Jeff was kind of by himself as far as the Pepsi drivers, and I have a fond memory of whenever there was some certain race he won. And it was a couple times, and he would, how they would put like something related to the sponsor of the race on top of the car. If it was like a Bush race, they would put like Bush beer or something on top of the car or something. There was something that was Coke related that got put on top of the car, and he just like pushed it off his car because he was a Pepsi driver. I thought that was cool. That was a long, long time ago. But
Oh yeah, that would have been a while since
oh yeah.
he won a race on a Pepsi car. It's been like since 2007, probably.
But yeah, I mean they've been with in the sport and with Hendrick for so long. I hope that they're in the sport in some respect, um, continuing on. And I do agree with you in with it possibly going to Kyle Larson because he definitely is the most flamboyant driver that is in that lineup anymore. I mean, granted, Chase Elliott's the most popular, but I would not call he's not. I don't. He's not as like unique, I guess, as a Kyle Larson or like a Dale Jr. when he had it, or like a Jeff Gordon. Um, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that number 5 car looks like this year with what sponsors it gets.
I mean, I can tell you, matter of factly, we are a Pepsi household because Jeff Gordon raced Pepsi cars. To be honest, I always drink Pepsi when we go to the store. I always prefer Pepsi. I think it tastes better, but it really helped that Jeff Gordon was a Pepsi driver. So we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people they go to Pepsi because it's got Mountain Dew. That's kind of their flagship brand in a way.
I feel like it, yeah, just because it has so many more flavors than Pepsi. It's kind of like a have whatever you want with Mountain Dew versus with Pepsi. It's like two or three flavors. Um, but I don't know how famous. I'd have to look at a chart to see what they sell more. That'd be interesting to see too.
So speaking of drinks, Dr. Pepper is one of the sponsors of Bubba Wallace this next coming season for the 2311 racing team with Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin, along with Columbia Sportswear, DoorDash, and McDonald's. Which DoorDash and McDonald's were they were already related to Bubba Wallace, weren't they?
Yeah, Columbia was too. They gave him like some like green and off yellow looking. It looked kind of scaly to me, but I think it was just like water. beating up on the car. I know he had that for the last year. He might have had it in 2019 as well, but I can't really remember.
But yeah, I gave the news to my buddy Brody because he works for Dr Pepper 7 Up, and so I'm hoping that I'm hoping that we get something free. I don't know, tickets or
At least a hat,
yeah,
maybe a
maybe Brody will get some cool posters or something or a
at the
calendar.
very least a sticker, huh? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Everybody loves stickers. I have stickers and I don't know where to put them ever. So,
Yeah, I have a lot of stickers in a box. Cause yep. Well, cause you put it up, you're like it's done. Like you've used it. I hope you like where you put it, cause it,
because that's it. Yep.
not
You're
moving
one
its
and
place.
yeah, one and done. Or like, I
Yeah.
mean, I guess you can get away with it, but then it never sticks the same again.
Amen. Amen.
And I
But
think that actually prevents me from using them because I'm like, man, I don't want to put this somewhere and then decide it's not right. And so then I just
exactly. I'm just afraid of the commitment, really.
see, I have a sticker from NEP, which we'll get to in a second, but I haven't used it yet because I don't know where to put it.
Yep. I have a lot of stickers and I don't know where to put them.
So I, speaking of NEP, I might as well talk about that first. Um, we raced at Watkins Glen on Monday this week, and you know a lot of those guys they're short track racers. They don't like road course racing, and that ARCA car is quite a challenge at road courses. Does not drive very well, but Watkins Glen I think is one of my favorite tracks for a stock car to be on because I feel like stock cars are better at the faster road courses, and Watkins Glen has a very high average speed. And I qualified second behind John Peters, the dominant driver in the series, and I fell back to third behind Evan Bollier, who's a late model driver, but he's pretty good in road racing. And we battled back and forth, back and forth. Um, and then we had a caution with like 6 to go, bunched everybody up, and they all pitted, and me and one other guy, Dylan Kopech, I think it was, we decided to stay out. So I led the field down to green with 2 to go, 2 or 3 to go, and I thought more people were gonna stay out because man, they swarmed me, and I got passed, and Evan Bollier passed me, and John Peters passed me, but then John Peters with like 2 to go or something, coming to the next to last corner, blew the corner, went off into the gravel. Got back on the track, but he had to fight to get like fifth place, I think. He ended up coming back to. Bullier took the lead right after Dylan Kopech, who was in the lead after I fell back. He spun out after coming to the white. And then, so I fell back, but then I gained those couple spots, and so I ended up fourth. Zane Farrell actually ended up, I think, third, and then Corey Casagrande second, and then Evan Bellier got the win there. So that was a pretty exciting race. Um, we'll throw it to Austin to talk about the Skidder Creek Racing League that was this weekend. My second start, and we were at Imola this week.
Yeah, we were at Imola. It's a pretty fun race, so I guess we'll go with the qualifying order. You know what? I'll talk about this in practice. Kenny, I don't know how much you practice for the race. I probably practiced for like a half hour or something before the race, and so I went into the actual league race practice. It's a pretty well-oiled machine. I kind of knew where to brake and where to go and how to drive the car. And lo and behold, I was wondering where you were for the second half of practice because you weren't really out on the track. I go to watch your stream after the race, and sure enough, you're watching me figuring out where to brake. Felt kind of like JR, so you're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, I practiced for probably like 20 minutes, like a couple days before the race, but um, I wasn't really fully focused on it. I was in Discord with some friends, and I was just kind of chatting with them and just kind of driving the track. So I was like off the pace, and I noticed I was missing my marks in a few corners. So I was like, okay, I need to have a consistent system of where to brake and stuff like that. My turn-in points were good. I just needed to adjust my braking a little, and you had the fastest time in practice at the time, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna watch Austin, and so it worked because it made me a lot faster by the time the race came around because I knew where to stop.
But you were quick, so go with the qualifying rundown. Matt Shanoski was on the pole. Chris Wolfson was second. I was third. You were fourth, and I don't know who was behind us, but it doesn't really matter because they were pretty much non-factors. So the green light drops. Matt gets off to a he jumps the field a bit. I don't mean jump the field as he like got an illegitimate good lead off the bat. He got a legitimate lead, but obviously as a leader he can choose when to go. So that'd be why he had a car length on Chris, myself, and then you, and then coming through the last corner of the first lap, Chris went wide. I believe he had a screen freeze because usually he doesn't make mistakes, especially ones large enough to like throw him into the gravel trap. So you and I got past him. We had ourselves a little bit of a race. And then at some point in the race, um, I let you by and didn't try to fight back because I was surprised I got back by you for like the lap or two that I did. And then I let you go chase down Matt and you guys were chasing them down, and then somebody went off into the gravel trap because they missed a turn, and they were trying to get back on track. And I mean, like he went straight onto the track, like perpendicular to where you should be going through the chicane, and he collected Matt and just spun him right out.
Yeah, I was right behind that at the time, and I was just like a couple seconds back, and I saw the car up ahead, off in the gravel, and I, I was kind of like what Matt was saying. I was like, just okay, he's off in the gravel. He knows we're coming. We're fine. We'll just drive right past him. And man, sure enough, he just drives right onto the track, just right when Matt's coming, and he just clobbers him. I'm surprised Matt could continue even because he hit him pretty hard, and I had to dodge it. I had went to the side. I'm glad I slowed down as much as I did, or else if I would have gone in too fast, I probably would have gone and hit the wall or something. Went off in the gravel, recovered, and I think that let you past both of us if I remember correctly.
Yeah, because when Matt hit him, they both kind of spun off to one side of the track. You went off the track to the left side. I was surprised you could actually come back on the track because with the speed you're normally carrying through there, I mean, you had to see it ahead of time. And credit to you for checking up and not slamming into the tire barrier on the left side of the track.
Well, the good thing was that I was already on the brakes for the corner anyways by the time I saw them hitting each other. So the only thing that like I just stayed on the brakes basically. I don't think I ever really got back on the throttle and then had to get back on the brakes. So it made it a lot easier because I was already slowing down. All I needed to do was keep slowing down and kind of ease the car to the left and then just not go too far off into the grass.
But anyways, that let me get past both you guys, and then you were about 3 seconds behind me, I think, until you spun out of the last turn on the front stretch.
Yeah, so the very last corner, it's like two 90-degree turns. And went through the first one fine. And I had been kind of cutting the last one. And I cut it and I used all the runoff. And looking back at the replay, I got just barely onto the gravel and with my right rear, and it just whipped me right around. I had no idea it was coming. Just complete spin out, kind of 360'd, and I hit the tire barrier on the left side just a little bit, but I had to whip the car back around 360 and get going again. But I was just like in shock when it happened. I had no idea that I had touched the outside gravel, but just barely, and so that pulled me back. That pulled Matt a little bit closer to me, and then you were all by yourself, and then you had problems of your own.
Yeah, the setup at Imola for the Corvette was really, really floaty in the rear end, especially under braking. And there was a lot of times you kind of have to dance with the wheel on the brakes, kind of like it was an old like 50s F1 car. Just really, really poor handling under brakes, and wanted to swap ends all the time. So I just kind of decided I wouldn't do that. I toned down the brakes, but one time I was just hauling ass into the chicane and it came around on me. Luckily, I didn't hit anything, and there was a big enough gap so I get it turned around. But anyways, that brought you back into the fight. So you're about 3 seconds behind me. Then we came into the pits, and you probably caught me by about a second or so coming into the pit lane, just the way you broke, because I thought you were sliding into the pits. That was pretty cool.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I charged the pit entry. I went as hard as I could. I probably should have put my brake bias forward further just to pit. Um, but yeah, charged in, didn't get the speeding penalty, so I gained a little bit on you there, and then I took less fuel. I took 4 gallons, and I got out like a couple seconds ahead of you. I'm like, all right, but I totally was guessing on the fuel, and I was looking, and I'm like, man, there's no way I'm gonna make it. No way. But so I kept driving. I probably should have like been saving fuel as soon as I got out. Try to, allow you to catch me, but not pass me, I guess. Then we got down to like lap or two to go, and I thought I was gonna be actually 2 laps short, but then we actually got the white flag, and I'm like, holy crap, I'm actually still in the game. I'm under power. We got the white flag. And then about halfway through the white flag lap, I started sputtering, and then naturally, of course, it's got to be like some of the slowest corners before the final straightaway. So I'm basically sputtering, and I brake for the last 2 corners, and then I'm basically out as soon as I reach my slowest speed. So I couldn't really coast. And then Austin comes up, and I moved to the right. I didn't want to be that kind of guy and block for the win, so I sort of moved over to the right, and Austin passed me through the last 2 corners and went on his way to victory, and I ended up fourth actually, but I did cross the line.
that's all that matters. That was a crazy race, but we'll leave Imola and go to South Boston for the street stock race. A pretty decent race. Started on pole, but as always, when I start on pole, there's a caution about a lap and a half in, so that took away the brilliant jump in lead I had. I don't know what happened, but anytime I'm in the lead, you can assure yourself there's going to be a caution pretty quick. Then we had a second caution, and James really knew how fast to charge in the corners of the street stocks, and the outside lane is better. Like as soon as the tires get worn at all, so he got by me by probably an inch before the caution came out, and from there on back, I was just riding.
Yeah, so I don't remember if it was the first caution or not, but I was actually involved in one of the cautions. I think it was the first one. I was just trying to get back through the field because I won last week, so I started like sixth, and I got passed a few times, I think, at the beginning. And I was inside of the 44 car Jeffrey Harden, and I think he thought it was clear or something. He just hung a left on the straightaway and spun himself out off of me, but I had to veer right to avoid him because he was kind of in the middle of the track, and I went up and I smacked the outside wall pretty good, and a couple other cars got involved, but so that was kind of a interesting one. But I stayed out. I didn't pit with damage, and I'm glad I did because I still had a competitive car. And then yeah, after that, do you remember how long you led before James got by you?
I no, because we had like two cautions or something in the first 10 laps. It was probably only like laps, maybe 10 or 15 at most, but it wasn't many.
So yeah, then again another good battle with James and JR like I've had all season long. Um, but pulling up the results real quick right now. JR ended up winning that. James, I got by James. James actually let me by. I think he was thinking more points than anything, even though he pretty much had it locked up. Um, James ended up leading 11 laps. You actually led 12 laps. JR led 27. So I filed in behind him, and I just couldn't catch him. Um, uh, Notable mentions: Joe Segal ended up fourth, and Adam Shane ended up fifth. You, Austin, ended up eighth, so you will again be pole sitter when we start out this next season at, I believe, North Wilkesboro.
Yeah, I was supposed to finish like fourth, but because Joe was trying to pass me, and I wasn't going to let Joe by very easily because he was kind of racing me that way when we were at New Smyrna or if we were last weekend. So I was really going to race him for all I was worth. And then Chris Davis was on his outside, and I realized he's new, but this guy, like, he kept hitting me in the corners and down the straightaway, like, just trying to push me out of the way. And I realized he's a dirt guy, and they don't race with a whole lot of, I'm not going to say car control, but they do, like, bang doors and bumpers on dirt. But we don't do that on asphalt, especially not in BRL. So it's whatever. But at the end, he like pushed me into a corner and took us three wide and spun me out because he made it three wide at the last second. Like we're talking like more than halfway through the corner, you don't make it three wide, but it is what it is.
Yeah, you made a really good save though. You got really sideways. You were all pointed right towards the inside wall, and you pulled it back, kept your
I used
position.
Jeff in accident. He came up and hit me to kind of straighten me out because I don't think I would have saved that car.
But then behind you, a car spun out for the last caution, and then that was the end of it. So we move on to the SK mods. So James Lowe won the championship in that series, the street stocks. That's worth noting. Moved to the SK mods. I started fifth, and again Austin on pole again. And this is a 100 lap race instead of 50. And Austin, you fought so hard in the up front. There was a queue, kind of a queue behind you. You had Donnie Moore, followed by J.R. Shepard, followed by Justin Morton, followed by me. And James was on my tail for a little while, but he kind of tailed off a little bit. He didn't have that much speed in that for some reason. He ended up actually falling back and then quitting with 16 laps to go because he figured he wasn't winning the championship. But I saw you guys up there getting every once in a while, one of you guys or both of you would get a little squirrely. You guys were almost getting into each other maybe, and it was just so hard to pass, so hard to make any progress. I was trying all I could to get by Justin, and you know, and it came down to the end with a good battle for the lead.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't gonna let Donnie pass me just because he usually races really hard. So, and I kind of knew there was that bubble of air, like JR, and you always talk about, and it is really hard to pass in those cars to begin with. So I was gonna let Donnie have to do something weird to get around me, and he just shoved into the corner, and I was still trying to win the race. Normally, if it wasn't for the win, I probably wouldn't have raced him as hard as I did, and I probably would have just let him spin me out because it's a penalty when you dive bomb people like that, and I'm not really gonna stand for that shit. But what are you gonna do? And then we're racing, and the high line was better, so I was gonna um, pass him back for the lead, but he shoved me into the wall in the front stretch, which normally we had kind of a gentleman's agreement. You put your right side on the dash line on the front stretch and the back stretch, but I don't know if Donnie didn't get that, but he just put me right in the fucking wall.
Yeah, I mean, he was going to try to use. I mean, he knew how hard it was to pass, and he was going to use up as much racetrack as he could to make that pass, and he ended up just biting off a little bit too much. Um, but Donnie anymore really, really works really hard to get his wins. It's a really pretty stacked field at times, and so I think Donnie understands the way they races too. I think he doesn't. I don't think he expects a ton of room for other people because he doesn't give people room. But so yeah, we followed that kind of freight train you back to fourth after that. You and I had a good battle there at the end. I actually got underneath you and we hit each other just a little bit, but it was all in good fun. And so Donnie ends up winning. JR gets second. I end up third. Austin, you end up fourth. Jeffrey Harden fifth. Mark Herzog sixth after starting 12th. That was a good run for him. Kurt Smith seventh, and Chris Davis will be pole sitter in the tour mods. We're moving to the tour mods next season. I'm excited for that because I like the tour mods a lot. They're a little more of a driver's car. And JR actually, even though he missed one race this season, he actually won the championship in that. So kudos to him. And I ended up third place out of that after missing a race. So that was pretty cool. And then we move on to the Grand National race. Final race of the season, I came in with a 16-point lead, I believe it was, over both Justin Morton and James Lowe. So I had to basically finish last and somebody had to win, but actually not enough cars turned up for the race to even make a difference. There was only a 14-point spread. So I actually won. I clinched before we started. I started seventh, and Austin again. You started on pole. How was the race from your perspective?
I should have started first in street stocks and second in the SK in the Grand National, but Todd didn't show up. So I mean, I'm just kind of happy I got to sit on the pole, but I'd kind of rather have Todd there to be honest, because he's a cool guy, fun to race around. But so he didn't show up. It was a pretty good race. I think I led like 15, 18 laps or something. It's not the most I've ever led, but when you have a caution every lap or every half a lap, you kind of can't do much. And I want to be like Jeff Gordon as much as I can, but golly, I don't enjoy the piss poor restarts or talent on the restarts.
Yeah, I in a track like that where it's so hard to pass makes it even worse. And we had, let's see, I'm looking at 10 cautions we had in that Grand National race. That was not good. Every time I would get into a rhythm, we'd have a caution. JR ended up leading 87 laps and hardly had to even try once he was up front. I mean, I tried all I could once I got to second to try to get by him, but I just I tried high and I couldn't get the drive in the corner. I tried low, I couldn't cut the car beneath him and get a run. There's just nothing I could do. Um, and so I just basically rode around in second the whole race. Um, but glad to see that you got a top five. Joe Segala ends up eighth. He'll be pole sitter um, next season at North Wilkesboro. That was a great race last season at that track. So it was JR, myself, Justin Morton, James Lowe, Austin Belke, Kurt Smith, Ruben Altus, and Joe Segala. And I ended up winning the championship, my first of the big televised, I guess, championships in BRL. So I was really proud of that. JR missed a race, so that really helped me, but um, I think that was pretty cool to be able to finish off a whole 11 race season. So speaking of some iRacing, I think our guest has arrived, and I think he's been doing a little bit of iRacing this week. Ben Wolfson, how are you doing today?
Wonderful, gentlemen. How are you this morning?
Doing fine. Um, I hear that you tried out the Chili Bowl, the iRacing official Chili Bowl. How did that go for you?
Well, we gave it a little go Monday. Um, it was interesting. So this was, I guess, the first year that they did the official Chili Bowl. So I figured we'd give it a try. Kind of jumped in at last minute. Didn't really have a setup or anything, and with some stiff competition. Definitely a different group than we're used to running with. So we didn't get too far. We ran okay in our heat, made it up through the C main, and that's where it came to an end on Monday night for me.
Yeah, that's such a tough environment. That track with that car with that many people. How many how many people were typically like in your heats and in your like C main and stuff like that?
So they took 60 total per split. I believe there was 4 or 5 splits that night. So each night was 60. And then I believe they broke it down. There was, I believe 6 or 7 heats of at least 10. Um, and then so on from there. The mains were a little bit more. What you're right is very difficult when you put people onto a track the size of the Chili Bowl, and um, you know they tend to want to play bumper cars with you.
Yeah, and the iRacing cars don't they don't like contact. I haven't driven the midgets much, but I can't imagine contact goes very well in those in iRacing.
No, and there's no caution flags in the heats. So once you get tied up with somebody and you're spun out, you're in trouble.
So Ben, I guess if you would please, take us through like a life history in racing, like what got you into racing as a kid. What kind of racing have you watched throughout your life so far? What do you enjoy most?
So to be honest with you, I've been into all kinds of racing, and it started probably oh back in the early 90s, late 80s. My father has actually got into a little bit of NASCAR, which kind of pushed me and my brother. Um, and my father and my brother got really into RC cars. I tried a little bit, but it wasn't really my thing. But I always was real into watching the racing and anything. And then through my later years, and when I started getting out of high school, like middle 90s, I really got into NASCAR when it right before the boom, and then um, and it just took over. I just enjoyed watching the auto racing, anything. Then went from NASCAR and really got into watching some IndyCar racing. Dirt track racing has always been really big. We used to go to the local track here, Lernerville Speedway is really close to our house. We used to go there every Friday um, when I was a kid and continued through that. Um, didn't get into really watching much Formula One racing to the last few years, and then kind of really enjoyed watching that. Same with the IMSA and the sports car racing. But always been the big NASCAR guy for years. Um, a little bit of IndyCar, and then just kind of went from there. Even for a short period, I was watching a lot of drag racing. My father-in-law was really into it, and kind of got me into it for a few years. So anything motorsports, I'll watch it and I'll get into it.
I was gonna ask too. Your brothers with Chris Wolfson, another Western PA racing guy, another one of our friends. When you were growing up with him in a racing household, did you guys, did you guys root for similar drivers and teams, or did you kind of have like a rivalry, like I want this guy to win, he wants this guy to win, or was there any kind of thing like that?
No, I really can't even remember watching, races with my brother. Um, he was always the diehard Darrell Waltrip fan for forever. That was his team. He was his guy. And I kind of moved along. My original, I was originally a huge Terry Labonte fan. Right around the '96 championship was big, and then I went in and eventually became a huge Tony Stewart fan. But we never really had that rivalry or, your driver, my driver. We never, like I said, we never really watched a lot of races together.
Yeah, no offense to Chris, but there was not many races where Darrell Waltrip was fighting for the win with Tony Stewart.
He
No.
definitely was not competitive over the years that we were really kind of really into it there.
They always say that Darrell Waltrip kind of bridged the gap between like that Petty Earnhardt era and like the Jimmy Johnson like era. He was too young to really be in the Richard Petty era, but then he was too old to be in the Tony Stewart, Jeff Gordon era. So he was kind of like that time span in between where Richard Petty's era was fading and Jeff Gordon's kind of era was starting.
Yeah, I mean, you could say that. I would say that I would probably put it more that Jeff Gordon was kind of the bridge there. He was kind of the newer, and then he was a little bit before Tony and things like that.
What made you like Tony Stewart?
It's a funny story. We went to his rookie year. A buddy of mine, we went to the Brickyard that year, and it was his first year, and that's all anybody could talk about was this Tony Stewart guy. And I had seen him on TV. Um, I saw him his first Xfinity race, or one of the first ones at Rockingham, when he was battling it with Matt Kenseth down to the line, and they were wrecking each other. Kenseth actually took him out, but it's another story. Um, and so we were at the Brickyard, and everyone's talking about this Tony Stewart guy, and I just kind of started following him, and like, I don't know, you instantly kind of had to like him, and it was really before he, um, got that really bad boy attitude. It was just about the racing, and then as things progressed, things kind of changed, and I just kind of thought, this is my guy here.
Yeah, everybody will definitely miss his no nonsense kind of attitude, but gosh, he was a hell of a driver in multiple disciplines. He was definitely fun to watch.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I think a lot of the attitude and the kind of off track stuff that came later when it was just pure driving. It was pretty impressive to watch.
So obviously, you're in the Western PAI racing team, and you've been in it since it began. What can you tell us about how it got started and what drove you guys to start the team and get into iRacing and really, I guess, hone your driving talents?
So I was one of the originals. It was me, Matt, and Chris, Matt Chinosky and Chris. And Chris and Matt had been friends. They knew each other from RC cars, and we had just started getting into the iRacing thing. It was kind of new to us, and this was even before um, the team driving thing. That we could actually even do the endurance races. That was before this was even. They said it was coming, and we would get online and kind of talk, and we knew this was coming, so we started just kind of preparing, like, hey, let's this might be something for us fun to do. Well, then they eventually came out with the team driving where we could actually switch drivers during the race. I remember the three of us, and we said, well, let's do this. Tim Shinosky had not even he was not even on iRacing yet, and so I remember the first race we signed up to was Sebring, and I wish I could remember the year. It was one of the first years they did this. And the funny story about this, a lot of people don't know. Chris actually ended up missing that race, and Tim ran that race under Matt's account. So if you look at the official records of the very first race Western PI Racing ran, the 12 hours of Sebring, it'll show myself and Matt were the only two people listed as driving. When Tim actually drove that race, Chris was supposed to register the team, and he did something. It was new, and he messed up, and it would not allow him in. So it was stuck to just me and Matt. And Tim actually drove that day from Matt's house on his account. So in the record books, the original race for Western PAI Racing is just me and Matt, but it actually involved Tim too.
And if we fast forward to this next coming year with that Western PAI Racing, we actually got a new member on the team. Austin, you're now signed, I guess you could call it, to Western PAI Racing. I guess I'll throw it to you first. Which race are you excited to run with us this year?
And all of them. Daytona is probably the best one of the whole year. I really enjoyed Daytona, the atmosphere. It's a 24-hour race. Just the feelings and emotions that you go through as the race goes on. But I really also like Road Atlanta. It's probably one of my other favorite tracks, and it'll be really cool to go through all the races with you guys and just shit talking the whole race.
Yeah, we have a really good time. Ben, is there a particular iRacing endurance race you look forward to every year? I know Matt Shinosky was one of our other guests. He really liked Le Mans, and I can't remember if he said that for sim racing and in real racing both, or if it was only one of them. But is there any race that sticks out to you on the iRacing side, the endurance wise, that you like over the others?
Well, anything with the 24 hours. Daytona is one of my favorite. I love the Daytona road course, and Le Mans is a great time. Um, to kind of what Austin said about the trash talk and the fun, we do have a good time doing it. One of the best things we did years ago was when we kind of got bigger was make the two teams. Um, and kind of we have one team that we know is going to be really competitive, and they're going to be really, really straightforward and get it done. Where the other team's kind of a little bit more laid back, and we kind of mess with each other and just kind of have a good time. But it's good on that end because we're able to bring in people that they may be a little nervous, like, "Oh, I don't want to get in there and mess up everybody's race." Where on that other team, we kind of like to take that attitude, like, "Hey, don't worry about it. If something happens, we'll fix the car, and we'll get back out there." So I enjoy that 24-hour getting in there, and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and Matt has been up all night, and he's sucking down energy drinks, trying to stay awake and run a stint, and just kind of messing with each other, and kind of some of the funny banter. It gets pretty interesting, and then you know when you finally do get to break and rest a little bit and wake up, and the first thing you're doing is to see, well, where are we at, how we doing. So that's what really makes the 24-hour races a lot of fun to me.
Yeah, there's such a unique challenge, in just in the gaming world and in the racing world in general. And I always like it too when we're able to get 2 cars, or we may even push to 3 cars at some point. It's interesting to like kind of check in. How are we doing? How's that team doing? Um, Keeping an eye on things. I wish I could stay up the whole full 24 hours because I'm constantly wondering what the teams are doing. And that's just really interesting to check back, see what happened, and I throw up a stream for the full 24 hours if my computer allows it, and um, it's fun time. I know Daytona is probably the coolest race that we do, in my opinion, since first one of the year. You kind of got all the butterflies for because it's the first one and a lot of participation, and it's arguably the easiest track that we go to for the 24-hour races. So you can really push the limit if you want, and we've had success there too. That's another cool thing about this team is that we've actually had the last 2 years have been really successful.
We've definitely, increased our performance through the years. Obviously, depending on split and things like that. But it's been fun to see since I've literally been here since the first one. It's been fun to see how it progresses, and I really enjoy. People. I don't think people really realize how much work we actually put into it. As far as we'll start practicing here shortly, probably maybe this week coming up or the week after. We'll actually start our practicing and working on setup. And you got to give Chris credit the amount of work he puts with schedules and printouts and things like that, and trying to keep things on track. Um, and the streaming's been great. Between your stream and Chris will put his up, and Brian. Um, if you do step away, you always have that access to log in and watch somebody stream and see how things are going.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to get the next year started and um, doing these Skidder Creek races. I'm finding very quickly how good of a road racer Austin is, so he'll be a very good asset to the team this year too. Um,
Well, we're glad to have him. I like, I enjoy when anybody, we have a good group that we've run with for, many years, and it's good to see when somebody else comes along in the fold, and hopefully they stay around and continue to hang out with us and run these races. So, it's really positive.
I'm excited to be on the team. I mean, with the other teams I raced for before, like, I mean, we might hang out some during the year, and do some other select races here and there, but we really only hang out and shoot the shit when we're doing the endurance races, and that's fine because we're all good enough friends that we can do that. But with you guys, I mean, we're pretty much shooting the shit every night in Discord, if not every night, every other night, just the way schedules go, and everybody's got families and chores to do around the house and work. But it's a great time.
It certainly is. And people that get involved, they stay. They hang out. We still talk to people all the time. I was lucky. I was on Discord the other night, and everybody was in, and everyone had left, and I was staying up late. I was off work, and Ron Henry popped in, and I hadn't talked to Ron in a long time, and we just kind of hung out and talked, and it was nice to hear from even some of the people that we don't hear from all the time.
that's a guy I need to get on this podcast. Ron, he'd be probably a good chat.
Well, Ron's doing well. It's always good to hear from him. I always joke with him when he pops in that it's glad to hear he's alive, and he was excited. He was getting towards the end of his work year, and he said to me that he was looking forward to Daytona and he was ready to go and had some time to spare. So it's always good to have a French Canadian speaking person. So when we do get into incidents with people that speak French, Ron can do his best to apologize for us.
Very helpful at Le Mans.
As we learned a valuable lesson one year that sometimes French Canadian and the regular French dialect is not the same. We learned this.
Well, it's worth a try at least.
Yeah, so no, but it goes back to the fact that it's good to have, even the people that we may not be in Discord every night, they still pop in, they still, and they're still ready, asking, hey, when are we running the next one? Can I jump in? So you're right. We may see the point where a third car comes along here for some of these events.
So Ben, the other night, you and I had I don't know if it's a privilege or more of a chore, but we were both helping Frank Denny, one of your and Chris's real life friends, one of his iRacing League events. And you were the spotter, and I was the crew chief, and we had a really fun time.
Yeah, it was a good time. So Frank's a funny person. Yeah, he's a good guy. And he's taken the iRacing by storm. So I enjoyed, and I got to give Frank Denny a lot of credit for all his years of real racing, and he's well known for being a good driver coach. And once COVID hit, we had been fighting with Frank for years to get him on iRacing, and he refused. He just said, "I can't do it. I'll just get addicted." And then during the pandemic, he ended up on iRacing, which caused him to get addicted. But we got into, my schedule kind of fit his schedule, and we got to racing a lot. And I'd always struggled on ovals and iRacing, and he totally changed everything I was doing, and made me competitive, and I owe him for that. But he's a funny guy, and we enjoyed it. We helped him out with his league races, and he's pretty laid back. And Austin did a fine job of not running him out of gas, and I got him almost wrecked once, but we did okay. But he's fun to get out there with, and mess around with, and then obviously with his real life job, it's fun to follow around along with him.
Yeah, we kept trying to convince Frank he should wreck the person in front of him because we needed a caution for more fuel, but that's another story.
I will add, I was the voice of reason there that told him not to do it.
Yeah, Chris was the only voice of reason. Everyone else is telling Frank to wreck the guy. We had Zane in there too. You guys know Zane, and he was helping me try to convince Frank to wreck him.
Yeah, it was what probably would have caused him to spin out and wreck into a very well-known NASCAR driver that may be on the board at iRacing.
Yikes. Well, I'm I'm glad you were the voice of reason, Ben, on that one. He probably
What?
would have looked like Kevin Harvick at Martinsville. He would he would have tried it.
Yeah, which is surprising because usually I would be the last person that would be the voice of reason.
Yeah. Um. So in your like iRacing development, you brought up Frank being kind of a driver coach. Like in the early stages, though, did you and Chris, your brother, did you guys kind of lean on each other learning this stuff? I mean, how was it like when you first started with iRacing? And how did you how do you even find out about it? And how was it when you were getting into it?
So yeah, yes, with my brother. So what kind of happened was, so me and my brother have been sim racing since the original NASCAR, which was, I don't even know if that was a Papyrus game, but then it might have been a Sierra game. And we kind of progressed through all the way up through, I believe, if 2003 might have been the last Papyrus game. And then shortly after, um, EA had taken the licensing, and we had kind of got, they produced one PC game, but wasn't very good, and kind of kind of fell away from it. And I hadn't sim raced for years, and iRacing was brand new, didn't get in on the ground up. And Chris was before me, and he had got in, and he's like, "Yeah, man, this is pretty fun. You got to give this a try." And I was like, I don't know if I want to get back into it." And then a few years went by, and um, I was really looking for something, and so I bought a computer and got into the I got signed up. And Chris was actually out of it then. He did not come back for a little while after he was in, and then he had stopped his subscription. So I started, and in my first year, which was like 2011 or 2012, um, I was on every day, running just tons of races, everything I could run. Um, and then as the years went, it kind of like fell off. I got kind of disgusted with the whole online community, and wasn't really running official races, and I'd run some league stuff and things like that, but I never really put the time and the effort into it that I should have to really hone it.
You know, that's one thing. Interesting dynamic with you guys is you and Chris's kind of like your competitive banter against each other. Like when you race against each other, like was a couple months ago, you guys raced at oh, was it like it was a road race, an official road
IMSA
race.
challenge.
Yes, it was. It's fun watching you guys give each other crap and race against each other. You can tell that, like if I watch Chris stream while you guys are battling, I can tell he has a fun time.
It is. We enjoy it. And I'll be totally 100% honest with you. It's not about like, there's nothing serious about I have to get in there and beat him. If he beats me, I'm super happy for him, but I'm going to mess with him the whole way.
Yeah, you've been known to play your mind games.
It is so funny watching you guys try to psych one another out, especially I think you guys were at Laguna Seca and you're in front of Chris, and I don't know who was faster. Chris might have been by a tenth, maybe if he hit a really good lap, but then you could hit a good lap and pull back away from him. But I remember you saying, if Chris gets by me, there's going to be some rough times at Thanksgiving dinner because I'm going to wreck him.
Yeah, which of course, obviously it was a joke. I never, I wouldn't do it. I'd love to see him do well, but yeah, you gotta just have a little fun with it. And that was actually a fun race. We enjoyed that triple IMSA triple challenge. We did all three of those, and we had a good time with it. I think we were lucky enough to get in the same split on definitely Laguna Seca. I don't know if it was another one, and
Sebring, I think you guys are in the same split as Sebring too.
yeah, that could have been possible. And that was it's always fun when you can be in the same splits and kind of race for the bragging rights of who's faster. And he's definitely Chris is definitely the better of the road racers. He really and he's even putting more effort into it now, and he does a lot more of that. Where I kind of at this point I'm kind of doing way more oval stuff with Frank, and that's only because of the timing. I'm able to spend more time online, different hours with him.
Yeah, you guys have a couple different days of the week that you guys will get on iRacing, and this really goes well with Frank's schedule for his job. What do you guys call your days of the week on iRacing?
Well, so it originally started out, it was Tuesday mornings, and that was Housewives Tuesday. Because while everybody else was at work, the guys that worked the odd hours were at home. So we would get on. We start racing sometimes the 8 a.m. race, sometimes the 9, and we go through the afternoon. So that would be Housewives Tuesday, and then Wednesday is Clown Shoes Wednesday, and that was an inside kind of joke where with Clown Shoes about had to do with somebody Frank used to work with that was kind of we used to joke around that he wore red clown shoes, um, which led into us calling Wednesday Clown Shoes Wednesday. So, and sometimes it extends to Thursday, and every once in a while it'll be a Friday. And lately, it's been sometimes a Monday trying to get the previous week races in.
I know sometimes it was Thursday was I wish I could help him Thursday.
Yeah, there was some of that. I wish I could help him. The names change constantly.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Um, is there a switching gears a little bit? Is there a bucket list race that you'd like to attend in real life that you haven't yet?
Ooh, well, there's probably a lot of them. I've been lucky enough that I've seen a ton of racing live. I've been lucky enough that I've been to a ton of NASCAR races since the early 2000s, since the late 90s. As a season ticket holder forever at Dover, Bristol, been to Charlotte. I got to go to my first Daytona 24 last year with my brother, and we had a blast. We were looking forward to this year, but that's kind of all up in the air with the pandemic. Um, I think if you're going to put my bucket list right now at the top is the Indy 500. I've been to the Brickyard 400 twice, but I really think that seeing the Indy 500, just everything that goes with it, is at the top, and it will happen here. Just not sure when.
What years did you go to the Brickyard?
So I was at the Brickyard, I believe it was 99 and 2000, if I can remember correctly. I know Dale Jarrett won it one year. I can't remember the other. Maybe Bob Bilbani one year.
I think both those line up with, they always say this saying that if you won the Brickyard 400, you were most likely going to win the championship. So I think you're correct.
Oh yeah, DJ won the championship in '99 and Bobby won it in 2000.
Yeah, that's that's all I know is who won the championship.
Yeah, that could have been it. It was an interesting experience. They always say about how the racing's not that great there and with the NASCAR, with the stock cars and things, but I can tell you that um, I've been to a lot of racetracks, and there's nothing like Indianapolis Motor Speedway. It's just something to behold when you're there.
You said you're a season ticket holder at Dover and Bristol. I'm really interested in going to Bristol. Obviously, if you're the season ticket holder, you've been to the day race and the night race. Do you have a favorite one of those?
So here's a funny story. I've never done the Bristol Night Race. So myself and my father-in-law have held our season tickets to Bristol, and every year I would go with him to the spring race. Me and him would go, and a friend. And then it always worked out in August that it was either I could never get off work or he would go with my mother-in-law and they would camp and things like that. So I've actually never done the night race there. I've only done the spring race.
That's so interesting. I'm sorry to hear you couldn't make it. For me personally, I've always enjoyed the Bristol under the lights. I think it looks cooler. I think it is cooler. It's literally cooler temperature wise, um, I guess, compared to the daytime. That's interesting. And Dover too. Which one do you like more between Bristol and Dover? Because they're sort of similar. Um, uh, how you sit and how banked the turns are.
So Dover is my favorite track on the entire schedule. Always will be. There I tell everybody, whenever somebody finds out that you're into it and they're like, "Oh, I always want to go to a race. Where should I go?" And I always tell them Dover. Only because there's not a bad seat there and sight lines are perfect. You can see everything, and the racing is always really good. Now, Bristol's cool. Don't get me wrong. There's something cool about Bristol and watching that. But Dover, for me, always created the best racing and the most enjoyable time for me. Dover is by far my favorite.
Height wise in the stands, do you prefer to be right on top of the track or do you want to be in the nosebleeders or somewhere in between?
So I like anywhere like, the middle to the up, depending on the track. Now, I can tell you that, Dover, we sat pretty high, which was good, and Bristol, same thing. Daytona, obviously, you have to sit higher. You're only going to see roofs of of the car. Um, I went to Richmond one year. We sat on the backstretch stands, which are no longer there. And the way the stands were set up, they kind of went out more than they went up. So even sitting back, they weren't very good seats. So I like to get up there, and it was hard at Richmond to see across all the way across the track from the backstretch to the front stretch. So I do want to go back. It's another bucket list to get back to Richmond with different seats because I think Richmond puts on some great racing with some different seats to kind of check that out again.
Have you ever been to road courses that NASCAR goes to?
Not for a NASCAR race, obviously, one of the big things is I'm sorry, Mid Ohio for us. Obviously, Austin, you know it well, which is another great place to watch a race. Indy cars at Mid Ohio are absolutely outstanding, but I've yet to see stock cars on a road course.
We'll have to go this year. It's always a great race. It's probably the best race um, for me because they can wreck and you get to walk through the garage area if you have a ticket or like a season pass holder. But the Xfinity Series is going to go there. So is ARCA, and we might even get to see Franklin.
Yeah, that'll be exciting. I'm always in anything at Mid Ohio. It's not all that far of a drive for us, and it's a really great place, enjoyable to watch a race. The 24 hours of Daytona is absolutely outstanding. It's one of the coolest atmospheres ever, and the access you get down there, and pretty much on your own schedule. Do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it, and sit wherever you want, and it's just a good time.
Yeah, so at the endurance races at Daytona, you kind of just roamed around when you went with Chris. Just kind of roamed around the whole time.
Yeah, we made sure we were everywhere. We started in the infield and the pits, and we sat down by the International Horseshoe, and then we went to the West Horseshoe, and then we went out over to where the turn onto the super speedway, and then we eventually made ourselves over to the grandstands. Then we were back to the infield and through the garages again, and then I remember we had went home and got some sleep, and then got up early the next morning, um, and headed back, and we planted ourselves early morning into the right. We were on the grandstand side, right where the cars come off of the infield onto the super speedway, and we ended up staying there all the way till the end, till the checkered flag, because you could see so much, and we enjoyed that. But that's one of the bigger things is that you're able to roam around and kind of see everything.
Yeah, it's got to be a very different experience because you know you don't have to plop down and sit somewhere for the whole time, and then you also have literally a whole day to kind of do whatever. That's something I'd like to experience at some point as an endurance race like that. I also want to make the trip over to Mid Ohio and be able to meet up with everybody. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Austin, is there anything else you wanted to bring up to Ben before we let him go?
Well, I think we need to ask him the last question, the G point on our list. But real quick, I just want to ask, what's your favorite, your iRacing car, like your go-to car, maybe a track?
So, well, you have to kind of break that down, right? By genre, road and oval. Um, on road, I the Ferrari. I'm a huge fan of the Ferraris, and I really enjoy driving the Ferraris. They haven't been the most competitive of cars in the GT ranks, but it's a Ferrari to me. Um, I love running on Mid Ohio Daytona Road. You get on the oval side, and lately it's anything in the NASCAR, the A, B, and C car. The truck, the Xfinity, and the Cup. Only because I've learned so much about driving them in the last few months that it's really enjoyable. Um, I absolutely love the dirt side. I'm still trying to figure it out and get good at it. I'm not so much on the sprint cars. I love driving the late models, the pro late model, or even the limited. But these new modifieds, the big block and the 358, they seem to be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I've driven a couple little races with them there. They seem pretty fun. I prefer the big blocks because of the amount of throttle control you can put into it, but they're definitely a different beast. But everybody seems to think that they're kind of the best driving and most racy of the dirt cars so far.
Yeah, that's been what I've been reading, and I wish I had a little more time to play with them than I have, but I'll get there. But that's one of kind of the interesting things people don't realize is how much I love the dirt side. I just wish I had more time to do it and really hone the craft at it. I always think that I can do it really well, and then I jump in an official race and I learn how really not good I am at it.
Do you have a favorite dirt track in iRacing?
So I'm a big fan of Volusia. I think
Same.
that's a great place to run. Obviously, I enjoy Lernerville. Lernerville is very difficult, but it is my home track, so it's kind of cool just to get out there and rip it up. This Cedar Lake that just came out, I have limited laps, but it seems kind of interesting to me. I like the way it's kind of laid out with a little bit of banking. It's kind of interesting to run, but probably Volusia would be at the top of my list.
Yep, I think Volusia's at the top of my list on dirt too. I like the D shape to it. I like that it's kind of multi-groove. There's different ways that you can enter and exit the corners and still be fast. It's not a one-lane deal.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then, but as far as genre, and we were just talking. I was talking to somebody the other day. I think my next move is I really kind of want to learn how to rally cross race. I've played around with it, but I've never really seriously done it. So I want to kind of learn that. That's coming.
Now, on the track side, do you have a favorite road and oval track? Do you like Dover from the driver's seat as much as you do from the stands?
So I actually used to hate driving Dover on iRacing. That was until I figured it out because, as you know, Dover is very difficult on the tires, and I could never understand why I would try to run these races and how far back I would fall. But now that I've learned how to do it, it's changed everything. And yes, Dover on the oval side is one of my favorite. I actually enjoy super speedway weeks. If you're in with the right group that really knows how to do it, that can be very enjoyable.
Any favorite road course on iRacing?
So Mid Ohio is obviously one of my favorites. I enjoy it. The Daytona Road Course is one of my absolute favorites. I enjoy driving Spa just because of how famous it is, and that's fun to drive. You know, Other than that, no, I'm pretty much down into anything on there.
So the last question, and Kenny's going to have to explain this more. Pace versus morale.
Yeah, so this was brought up to me by a friend at Western PAI Racing that we all know, and Ben knows better than anybody. He said, which matters more, you having pace? Let's see, how should we put it? Like general, okay, the pace of the team or the morale of the team. So would you rather be nice to everybody and everybody have a good time, or would you rather be a douchebag but you're fast?
I'm gonna go with the morale because if I'm not having fun and we're fighting and nobody's getting along, it's not. Why are we even doing it? If we finish 19th, but we had a good time together and we enjoyed it, I'm down with it. If we finish fifth and everybody hates each other and nobody wants to talk to each other, I'm not interested. I'm more about having fun with it. At the end of the day, as serious as you take it, we're playing a simulation. It's 100% for entertainment. I'm not getting paid anything to do it. I don't have sponsorship on the line. I still have bills and families to raise. I still have my family to raise and I still have bills to pay, and this isn't going to change anything. So I would much rather have fun with everybody than everybody be miserable and we run better. That's just my opinion.
So what if? So that was being a dickhead, I guess, to each other on the team. What about being a dickhead to the other people on the track?
Well, it depends. I mean, if somebody's just doing dumb stuff and being an idiot, something needs to be said. But if one of our teammates is having a hard time with somebody and they're giving them a hard time, I'll jump in and defend them.
Gotcha. I think that's very telling of your personality, and the personality of Western PA as a whole is just trying to go through this as a bunch of guys trying to have a good time instead of needing to go out and win, and the amount of pressure that you guys put on yourselves is that you want to have fun and you want to be serious about it, but at the end of the day, you're right. It's not paying the bills, and in fact, iRacing is one of your bills
Yeah, yeah,
yearly. So
exactly. I wish I had some of the money back, but I can't tell you that. It's funny the amount of money we put into these buying these rigs and wheels and things. At the end of the day, if it brings you the entertainment, it's all worth it, right? I wish I had some of that money back, but not really.
hey, well, there's probably a car too, maybe a track that like you hate and it's terrible, or you dislike the track and it's never used at all anytime. So why'd you buy it?
Yeah, I tried to. I'm pretty close to 100% content owner, but like even this last build, there were certain. I looked at that new Delara and I said, "Oh, that looks cool, but I'll never drive it." And then what'll happen is next week, I'll be like, "I want to try that," and I'll buy it. So.
Yeah, yep, same here. Yeah, the thing is too, the that I pick up from this is me getting into iRacing. I would never know that any of you guys even exist on this planet if I hadn't subscribed to iRacing. It's allowed me to meet a lot of really cool people and do a lot of cool stuff. So that's kind of the way I see it. I mean, it's been well worth my money and my time.
Absolutely. It's kind of neat when you look back and look at some of the friends you've made from, all over the place. And, we got friends from Canada and Michigan and Tennessee and all over. It's kind of neat to see how it all works out at the end. You know, the friends you make.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think I spend a lot of time shooting the shit with Kenny and you guys, and I would not even know you guys if it weren't for iRacing. If it were for iRacing, I would definitely know you guys a little bit, probably on a first name basis, being in the league. But it's just so much accelerated when we're on Discord shooting the shit.
Yeah, it's definitely enjoyable. It's better than, if you really think about it, if there wasn't, if we didn't have this outlet where, whether it was our team speak or now we use our Discord, if we didn't have that outlet, you'd probably actually race a lot less than you do. How many nights of the week do you jump in and there's 7 people in there and you jump in and everyone's kind of doing their own thing, but you probably wouldn't have done it if there wasn't anybody in there to even go in and talk to.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Mad props to the first person that sort of just jumps in there to see if other people will join him. I know it's Jr. Sometimes it's Chris. Sometimes it's Matt. I'll try to jump in, but usually someone's already in there when I would jump on myself.
Yeah, it's always fun. And like I said, I enjoy now. This will be cool here, just starting within the next, I'm going to say we may next week, throwing up the test sessions for Daytona, and those become fun on, the Monday night or the Tuesday night that we do it.
Well, Ben, it was great having you on with us. Appreciate you taking some time out to talk about your perspective in the iRacing and racing community. Um, we will see you in the virtual Daytona for sure on the team. And yeah, you're free to disconnect, and we'll talk to you later.
Gentlemen, I appreciate you having me on, and I will see you guys on the track in Austin. Welcome aboard. Welcome to the team.
Thank you, buddy. Thank you for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
All right, guys. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.
See you, Ben.
See you, buddy. That was so cool having him on here and just talking about stuff with him. I really enjoy Ben and the Western PA guys. I guess I'll move to video games. And Kenny, you can talk about this first point.
Yeah, so Cyberpunk 2077, as I believe I ranted on a while ago, is that it's been so buggy and practically unplayable on console. They have released a few more content updates or bug patches and stuff, but it's still very buggy, especially when you're in the city area. And so it was so bad, in fact, that Sony removed it from the PlayStation Store. Um, I have a place. I'm not playing on PlayStation. I have an Xbox. I have both, but I'm playing on Xbox. I just haven't even touched the game. I feel like I have other stuff to do and play, so I'm gonna try to leave it unless I really want to try playing it or until it gets somewhat fixed. But yeah, that's pretty unprecedented for a store to actually remove it. You can't even buy it now on Sony PlayStation Store. That's pretty much unheard of, at least in recent times. What do you think about that, Austin? Would you rather um, a store keep things open and be like, all right, here you go, but you probably won't get a refund, or you may not, and you might have a garbage game to play, or would you rather be restricted to not even try, not even be able to try to buy it?
I mean, I think it's the principle of it all. If you want to spend your money on it, then go ahead and it works for the new PS5 and the new Xboxes. Those have enough power to play it well. So from that standpoint, I think maybe backdoor it to allow the people with the high-end PlayStation 5s to buy the game because it works on those. So from that standpoint, let those people play it if they want to. Um, but don't they sell disc copies? Like, can't you still go out and buy a disc off the shelf, or at least like a game off the shelf?
Yeah, probably. Me personally, I think they should just leave it open, just because, um, you know, I think if you buy a game and you don't look into it a little bit, with how much access you have now into knowing what games are like before you buy them, it's kind of shame on you if you buy something and ends up being terrible and you had no clue all these issues were present. I mean, pretty much people should know by now how many issues Cyberpunk 2077 has. So I would think that you know you kind of know what you're getting into at this point if you go and buy it off the store. So I feel like people should be left with that option, to where they could buy it and play it anyways if they feel. I feel like they shouldn't be told, nope, you just can't buy this right now. You have to wait. I feel like people should be given the choice to wait. Um, and another thing that might be interesting is, like, you know, what if this game starts to become decent to play, but it's still restricted on the store for a little while longer now? Well, now people can't buy it, and now the people who have it, they can play it, but the people, more people can't buy it.
Well, ultimately, I think I'm going to side with Sony on this one for a bit, and it really goes against most of my character of like free enterprise system, free market economy, sell whatever you want. Because I do think you shouldn't blame people for just going to buy the game because it might be like a parent going to buy the game for their kid this Christmas or something, and like, look, I'm going to buy this game no matter what because so and so wants it for Christmas, and then at that point, it's like beyond the 24 or 48-hour time period where you can buy it. And I know a lot of parents are trying to preload games in their consoles for their kids these days. Um, so from that standpoint, I got to side with Sony. And plus, when you release this bad of a game, it's kind of a slap in the face to isn't CG Project Red or whatever who released the game.
Yeah, I think it's CD Project Red if I remember correctly.
Okay, thank you. And it's kind of a slap in the face to them to say like, "Hey, when you do something stupid like this that people have been waiting a long time for, and it's bad, it looks bad on us. It looks bad on the community in general, and so I can see why they take the market. But I think ultimately, what I would do if I were them is put another disclaimer on the store to say, "Hey, this game is really buggy. Probably don't buy it. But if you still really do want to buy it, go ahead. But like." Let's add another hoop to jump through to say like probably don't buy this game or think about it twice. But there's still also you can go to the store and buy it. So from that standpoint, I think no harm, no foul as long as people have the access to go to the store and buy the copy off the shelf.
Yeah, yeah, I suppose that it's just a bad situation, like all the way around with the how this game's been. I was delayed so many times because it wasn't ready, and then it finally gets released and it's not ready. This is exactly what they were trying to avoid, and they're running into the very issue. So hopefully things can get fixed eventually, and will be a decent game in the end. I mean, it's got a lot of content that I would like to get into, but I feel like my experiences would be kind of ruined if I force myself to try to play it right now. Um, but in other gaming news, you've been playing F1 2020 some more.
Yeah, so when I got my new wheel and pedal set, I stopped playing Formula One because I was just going to use this for iRacing. Um, and last week I finally plugged it into my Xbox and played the Formula One game because of course there's a lot of signage in the game, and they also have Fanatec sells their own Formula One edition wheel that you can buy to put on your base, and there's like a package. If you buy the wheel, you get the game for free or something. Um, so I was doing that, and I thought it'd be awesome because the Formula V2, I think it is, wheel has a lot of switches, rolly boys, funky switches, up, down, little arrow keys and stuff, and a bunch of the twist knobs like they have in the real Formula One cars to do engine modes. So I thought it'd be awesome to go play the game, but it turns out it's pretty terrible. And I guess I'll take us into the rant and review for this week because it's the Fanatec wheel in F1 2020. Because half the reason I got this wheel was because it had all the switches and knobs on it, and it doesn't work in Xbox or on the Xbox. It'll probably work if I bought the game for PC, but I bought it for Xbox. So what the heck? Because it has all the switches and stuff, but the Xbox reads it as a different thing, and it comes on the Fanatec side because it's the wheelbase that ultimately tells the Xbox what to read, I would assume, or what to take as the inputs. Because there's a lot of extra buttons on this wheel than my old Logitech G920 wheel, and I thought I could use them, but they're all mapped to like the triggers, the paddles, or the buttons, LB and RB, and the different stuff on the controller, which is complete bullshit because when you think about it, Xbox sells the higher end controller, the Elite controller, and that one has four extra buttons on the back that they sell exclusively because you can map them as new buttons to play to like throw grenades and in Call of Duty or Halo. They got to push Halo, especially when it sucks this bad. You got to push it and push your controllers because otherwise there's no reason to have them. So if you can have four buttons for that for a $100 controller, why can't you add four buttons to a $500 controller? It's like the Formula Wheel because it's so stupid. It's so stupid. I can't even use the rollers, the up down switches, none of that. It's all mapped to something else, and it's why?
The Roly Boys and the Twisty Boys. Yeah, the functionality of this kind of stuff is it sometimes worries me if I ever buy stuff like this. You know, you expect it. Since okay, this wheel works with it says it works with Xbox, so everything should work, but that doesn't always end up being the case. And I think sometimes with different games too, even like you'll have same thing on PC. Some games wheels will be like really easy, a breeze to set up, and then others they're a freaking bear to get set up, and some of them just flat out don't work right, or some of the features of them don't work, and it's really disappointing when you dump all this money into our setups.
Yeah, I mean, everything works for iRacing, and I assume if I bought F1 2020 for the PC, I could use it all, but at least put a disclaimer to say, like, all these buttons, they work on Xbox, but not how you think they would if you could program it to be different. And maybe there's a Fanatec app or something on Xbox, but I didn't see it in all the stuff that I read when I first got my setup, so it wasn't there. And I tried looking online, and it's just, it sucks.
Yeah, that's disappointing.
Especially too because with the G920, the D-pad is right by my thumb, so I could easily use it. But this one, it's like in the middle of your hand, like your thumb is way above it, so it's a lot harder to get to switch on the fly, especially going into and out of corners. Like I like to mess with the fuel setting all the time around the lap if I need to, and it's a lot harder now.
Yeah, that was one thing. I'm debating about eventually getting an upgraded setup, and I'd like to get that NASCAR wheel that some of our friends have, but they were saying that it's a lot bigger of a stretch because of how big the wheel is to reach any of the buttons. And I don't know if that. I can probably get used to it, but that might be a little bit of a turnoff to me because I like my Thrustmaster wheel because it's pretty small and all the wheel or all the buttons are within reach of my thumbs to where I can, keep my hands on the wheel properly and I can reach all my buttons. Um, so, I hope that it's not too big of a deal to where, I mean, I can stretch my thumb a lot further than where my buttons are now, but I guess I'll have to see. I mean, because I know that NASCAR wheel is pretty big.
Yeah, it's really weird that they'd sell it like that. And of course, I can see the appeal if you want to be an actual simulator, you want the real thing. And wheels in real cars are a lot larger than sim racing wheels. I mean, if you look at the one on my Silverado, that wheel is huge. Even on my Camaro, for it being a sports car, I mean, it's ginormous. It's probably like a 13-inch diameter wheel. But my G920 wheel, the F1 wheel, they're both like 10 and a half and probably 10 and 3/8. Um, in diameter, and to me, that's perfect for sim racing. And yeah, all the buttons are right there. Whereas with the NASCAR one, and it's kind of stupid in my opinion how they did this. It's on the center or it's on their fake hub, and it's really hard to reach. Um, but in real life, you can see like all the drivers will have a button on the rim of their wheel just above where they put their hand, so they can easily hit it with their thumb. And I think it's a huge missed opportunity on behalf of MPI and Fanatec to not have that on the rim.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I mean, Yeah. It's probably easier for them to design it more towards the center because that's kind of the brain, if you will, of the wheel. You know, everything towards the center. It'd be easier to mount it that way. But um, and then you also got paddles a lot of times behind. But some of them, like the MPI NASCAR wheel, probably doesn't have any paddles to deal with it, right? It's
No,
just a rim.
it's a straight rim,
So
and there is no brains in it.
yeah,
That's why you need the back plate or whatever.
yeah. So yeah, I guess it's definitely a missed opportunity for them to do it correctly and a little more efficiently at the same time. I mean, it's kind of a win-win if you did it that way because you not only are you more authentic, but it's also more, you know, user-friendly too. You would think.
Yeah, I heard some people got the NASCAR rim as their first one, and they didn't buy a shifter, so they didn't have the paddles that they had before, so they're kind of just screwed out of changing gears. I don't know what they did in the end. Maybe switch back or just buy the paddle shifters, the universal hub, or maybe they bought a shifter. But it, I don't know. It really sucks.
Yeah, that's a
But I
disappointment.
mean, if you want a circular wheel, they sell other stuff. There's the BMW stuff. They released a new Rallycross wheel, which is also compatible with an Xbox. Kenny, I know you have one, and that looks really cool itself. It's I think it's like 10 or 11 inches in diameter, so right where the Goldilocks spot is, I think, for sim racing. But
Right.
you could just buy a Formula wheel like me because I only put my hands at 9 and 3, so that's that's all I need.
Yeah, I think I'll. I may buy a Formula style wheel for some road racing, but I think I'll. If anything, I would have like two wheels because I just want to have a round wheel for most of my oval stuff and whatnot. I think I'd pick up a Formula style wheel for the immersion factor on the road racing side.
No, I know what you mean, and I've seen you race on your webcam and your streams, and I know you usually hold the wheel at 9 and 3 too, so it probably wouldn't be a big deal, but it's just cheaper to only buy the one wheel, and it also gives me some peace of mind of I was really terrified of like putting the wheel on the hub because you can bend the pins, and if you bend the pins, you're kind of out of $500.
Yeah, so you'd kind of be pulling an Alex Zanardi like he did at Rolex 24 a couple of years ago, where the car went down on the jack when he was trying to put the wheel on, and he messed up the pins on it, and he couldn't get the wheel on the hub.
Yeah, correct. So I just leave my Formula rim on all the time, and it works. And I even do it. I do it for dirt, for oval, for road, and it just stays on there. I'm not taking it off ever.
That's a good point. So I digress to the last segment of the day, the getting around to it. Uh, for me, a little bit of a holiday vibe here is I'm trying to complete my Christmas shopping because I like to buy for my parents every year, and they got a cat too, and I got a cat, so I got to buy for them as well. And I got most of my shopping done. I'm always last minute on this stuff though, because like a lot of ordering online this year, especially. And I actually go on to Amazon and I get the pre like gift wrap, like Christmas gift bag wrap, so I don't have to wrap them because I'm that lazy. But I'll just call it efficient. And so I got most of that done, but I bought a few things that were not online, so I have to wrap them. Haven't done that yet, so I'm getting around to it. And a few things I got from a parts store, and they won't be here until Tuesday. So then I'll have that day, I'll have that night, and then a couple more days to get my stuff wrapped. Have you done any Christmas shopping, Austin?
I have done some light Christmas shopping. Yes. I still need to go get more stuff. Pretty, I'm not gonna say lazy, but I procrastinate with it because I know I have time. I'm I'm off work. I took vacation for the next week, so I got some digging around time. So I'm not too worried.
Yeah, my mom's always like, "Yeah, we need to exchange Christmas lists," and this isn't like October, maybe November, and I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, okay." So we
Moms,
exchange.
moms are on their shit. I feel like it's something that happens when you become a mom, or at least if you're a good mom, you stop
Yeah,
procrastinating or you start to do stuff early.
yeah. She she gets my list, and then she's like, "Yeah, I went, I got all my gifts bought," and she actually procrastinated a little bit on on wrapping this year. She actually just kind of finished most of her wrapping just now because she had some surgery that kind of she was resting from that for a little bit. But as far as getting her shopping done, she got that done like early, like she normally does, and did most of her shopping, if not all of it, maybe online. And I always procrastinate. I'm pretty sure there's been years where I've wrapped presents on Christmas Eve, but I'll get her done, and I'll get together with my parents, and we'll have a nice Christmas.
Yeah, that's what we've always done in my family. It was Joe and I would go downstairs to wrap presents for our sister and our mom and our dad's stuff, and then my dad and our sister would go out like to the garage or a different room in the house, and she'd wrap presents for my brother and I, and that's just his Christmas Eve affair, man.
Yep, yeah, we I would back when I lived with my parents, I had to hide my stuff, so I would hide my presents that I bought for him in the closet, and what a pain in the ass it always was too. You gotta put it in the closet, but then you gotta my mom would come into my room once in a while too, so I gotta make sure she's not gonna see it if she does come in, and then I gotta wrap them, so I gotta go into my room, and she's gotta not come in, and I gotta get all the wrapping done, and then I gotta put them under the tree. Now you know, since I'm living on my own, I can wrap them right in the living room, set them off to the side, and bring them over to their house when it comes that time. And it's kind of funny too, because I used to always wake up really early, like 5 a.m., 6 a.m. for Christmas morning, because I wanted to do presents. And my parents were like, "Oh, you can come over whenever to do Christmas." And I was like, "I'm setting my alarm as if I'm waking up for work 5:25 a.m. I'm gonna get breakfast, take a shower, and I'll be right over."
Yeah, there was a period in time I was in high school and I just thought it was like cool as shit to stay up all night. So I get damn near close to like 4 or 5 a.m. come around and I just conk out.
I think there was one time that I stayed up pretty late, and I wasn't trying to stay up late for the fact of Christmas. I was just staying up late, probably playing games or something. And I didn't end up waking up till like 10 or 11, and ended up doing presents a lot later that year. But most years end up waking up relatively early for it.
Well, it doesn't help too. It's like you've been off school for a couple days already. So like naturally you just kind of stay up later and later and later and later until it's like 5 a.m. and you're like, I should probably stop playing Minecraft.
Yeah, yeah. In this case, I got to work 3 days this week, and then we'll be off. So I'll have Christmas Eve off. So I might stay up late Christmas Eve, and then um, I'm gonna try to wake up early on Christmas again. But are you getting any? Did you ask for any models for Christmas? I know you've been progressing on more modeling.
No, I've been just it's more of a I buy them kind of thing because I'll go to the store and I'll see them there and buy them because it's kind of weird. There's not many NASCAR models that they make, so I can't really add any to like my list, if you will, or tell my parents like which ones I want. So I'll just go to the store and buy them myself. I don't know what I'm getting for Christmas. Usually I have a pretty good idea. This year I know with COVID, like some setbacks, some cuts, some budgetary cuts around the house. Um, but we'll see. I did buy a couple more though.
So you said your Corvette, your modeling or Corvette model's done. That looks pretty sweet in the pictures that you put in our Discord or Brian's Discord.
Yeah, it looks really good. I'm surprised how well it turned out with the stickers and the different things on there that I had to paint. Some of it was last minute. Obviously, I learned some more stuff. The only problem with it is the ride height. It doesn't sit right on the body, and I feel like that's just because the paints I used and the tolerances where I messed them up with more paint than there should be or something. But it looks good.
Yeah, and didn't you have to like repaint that or something because of the paint was wrong or something?
I did, yes. So the problem was I put down one type of primer and I put down another paint over top of it, and it bubbled, it orange peeled, so I had to sand down the paint in some spots, and then paint over it. And now it looks good, so it wasn't as bad as others I had seen.
So that was the you hate to see it moment of the week. However, you turned it into what this is what my elementary art elementary school art teacher used to say, turning an oops into an aha.
Ah, yes. Perhaps.
Or maybe turning an oops in or like an aw shit into a okay.
Yeah, definitely like, oh, it's all right.
That's the adult version of that, I guess.
Yep. And then other in other getting around to it, I got a. Oh, I guess this is one thing I maybe got for Christmas, a big ass Lego car, but it's not real Lego. It's cheap Chinesium because in like August, Amazon was having, I don't know if it was Amazon or someone else, but they're having a giant blowout sale on it. So I got like a $300 cheap Chinesium set for like $90. It was probably 200 because it was cheap Chinesium, but yeah, it's the Porsche 919. So it's yeah, it's pretty big. It's quite the build. As soon as I finished the Corvette, I was going to start on it. I meant to start on it this coming week because I knew it was going to take me a couple days, and yeah, it's going to take me a lot longer than I thought.
Oh, you're getting around to it. So that'll be the next.
I'm taking my time. My thumbs are raw as shit from pushing all the pins together. It's really bad.
Well, we'll be looking forward to your updates on that. And just as I'm about to end, I get a message in chat of a bot that's asking me if I want to become famous. So that's awesome.
Oh, congrats! Congrats, all
Yep,
yours.
so I'm going to ban him. And
True.
on that note,
Well, hold
um,
on. We can run one other thing.
okay.
Uh, this might come to a surprise to people. Usually we do these on the same weekends as BRL has competition. So it gives us something to talk about. I know the Dale Jr. Download and other podcasts will often take a break if there's a holiday. Um, if everything works out, we have a very special surprise for you guys next week, a Christmas present to us because it's very famous. We really like them, and I think it'll be a good Christmas present to you guys as viewers of who we have on. But can't divulge that yet because we don't like to make false promises. But next Sunday at 10 a.m. It could be a great time.
Yes, hopefully we can get him on board and just kind of chat and maybe some holiday talk, some racing talk, and just some general chat. That'll be a fun time. This week was a fun time. I really enjoyed having Ben on. Gave us a lot of cool insight as how far back he goes into being a race fan and his perspective of iRacing. It's cool to see that he's still learning and getting better at iRacing. I think that's kind of motivating him to play more. And I always like seeing that. I like that seeing that with myself. It's also cool to see other people learn and progress and get better at this and do different disciplines, try new things. So it was cool hearing that from Ben, and I'm really excited for next month when we, along with you, Austin, get to attack Daytona for the 24 Hours of Daytona.
Yeah, it should be a good time. On that note, I think it's time to end though.
Yes, sir. And thanks to Austin for co-hosting as always. Thanks for Ben Wolfson for coming on board, our Western PA iRacing teammate. And we'll talk to you guys next week. Goodbye and Godspeed.